This is a super special episode. This is an extended episode having to do with these wonderful cakes. We brought Kevin in. We've got papers and stuff all over the place. But we're gonna talk about the process that we went through, both their process on their end, the process of making these cakes, which wasn't quite as easy as it looked. So there's a lot here to talk about.
You know, John, I was excited about this episode when I first heard about it. We have done a Great Cake episode before, and in fact, the 12th Night Cake. If you want to see more of maybe a clearer presentation of how to make the cake, I would watch that video. But what excited me the most about these cakes was the story that connected them to this location. And the mystery behind this. There's this letter written by a 10-year-old girl on Christmas Day, 1810, to her brother, and she is talking about the scandal behind these cakes.
So let's hear the letter.
Well, what she says, the portion of this letter, she says, Sister Anne, who is the oldest daughter here, is just returned from cousin Eliza Gwathmey's wedding and brought us some cake to dream on. She says they were very merry at the wedding and cousin Betsy looked very pretty. But what diverted me most was the blunder Cook Robin made. Aunt had a large cake made of brown sugar for the servants, and Cook Robin, through mistake, took one of Aunt's best cakes and left her the one that was made of brown sugar. And that's all she says.
So, I love this story.
Right.
It sounds like a fun scandal. I'm sure she was enjoyed writing about it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But of course, you have to wonder if it's amusing to a 10-year-old girl, was it so amusing to the adults? Or is she amused to maybe see the adults put into a tizzy?
Right. You know, I think it's an interesting story. I think there's more there, and I think there's a lot we can kind of tease out of that. Some things about what's going on with this great cake and what this brown sugar cake was like. And what you didn't have was, and the difficulty we have, is what was a brown sugar cake?
Right. Well, first of all, we didn't have recipes. That's all we had.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there was some speculation as to what both of these cakes were. And in the research that we've done, we were assuming this was a great cake because it was a festivity for a well-to-do family.
And that was another piece that actually you guys added into the puzzle about how we're always wondering at what point can they tell that this blender was made. So adding in the sweetmeats right there was one of those aha moments. That was common, and then ultimately seeing there is a difference in the tone of one or the other.
Right. And if we had left out the sweetmeats and cooked them, everything else being the same, we would not have been able to tell, even if they weren't iced.
Not before they were cut into, no.
Right.
Well, that was one of our questions when we were trying to interpret this letter did it actually play out as Eliza said it did? Was this a mistake, just a blunder, and she accidentally took the wrong cake? Or, one thing that intrigues me is cases where enslaved people would, they would exercise control over their own lives by passive resistance, and they might do something like break a tool handle, but pass it off as, I just didn't know, and the masters or whoever might accept that, but then they're out of work for a little while. So that's one thing that we started to wonder is, was this just an honest mistake or was this passive resistance?
A mistake, or was there motive?
Exactly, was there motive? Was this Cook Robin's way of taking a little bit of control?
Right.
So, and I don't know if we've settled that.
I don't think so either. And one of the amazing things about this letter is it does give us this little window into the lives of the enslaved servants here connected to the family. And of course, they use the term servant. These were enslaved workers. Right. And so kind of wondering, do we give Robin some agency? Is this a moment of seeing her taking a little bit of control of her circumstances? On the other hand, this could have been a really bad day in her life.
Right.
This could have been that she was really left holding the bag for an honest mistake in the middle of a crazy day. And we just still really don't know.
That's a very good point. Which adds, honestly, a bit of sobriety to this exercise, this experiment.
We don't know what happened to Robin after this blunder was discovered. It was
Right.
amusing to a 10-year-old, and maybe everybody played it off, and it could be that she was playing on stereotypes of the enslaved being stupid. It could be that she was punished for this. And we just don't know.
But through this experiment, it's been great to physically get a little bit closer to
Yeah.
what these events looked like.
Yeah.
By recreating these cakes.
So let's talk a little bit about why we chose what we did. There was a lot of kind of thought. We actually sort of, hammered this out over a period of time, trying to figure out what this was, because it's not easy to figure out. What's a brown sugar cake going to be? Even whether this was a great cake or some other kind of cake. This is a transitional period for cakes. You guys chose, one of the things you were looking at early on in the research was Amelia Simmons's cookbook.
Yes. She has
And-
some pretty clear recipes for
Right, she's got some pretty clear recipes. One of them is called a rich cake, right?
So.
Yeah, and this was a plain cake.
Yeah.
Right, and then there were some simple cakes.
And did we go with another plain cake? Was that
Yes, she was a
specifically
plain cake, and
right.
then this is listed as another. And we purposely chose the most simple recipe we could, partly because we were playing with food for the enslaved, and
Right.
partly as sort of a baseline to test
Right.
sugars off of.
Right.
Because one of our first questions was actually, what is brown sugar?
And
in
that was a
1810?
very complicated question.
It was a lot, because it turned out that, again, brown sugar was probably sugar that had not had all of the molasses taken out of it, whereas modern brown sugar is actually refined sugar that's had molasses put back
It's
in.
a completely different
Right. Yeah.
process.
Right.
Amy, you mentioned something about it's, or maybe it was you, Brian. I don't know. One of you said that it's possible that this brown sugar that we're talking about is not even available today.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we went through every sort of possibility of what was on the shelves.
Yeah. Well, and the bottom line was, I mean, brown sugar then was, as far as we can tell, was an inferior product. It was less refined, and now we're creating brown sugar from other products. So we're intentionally getting to that rather than settling for it with a lesser cake. And that's really where our research partners came in, and some people really helped us out quite a bit, trying to figure out what this brown sugar even was.
So admittedly, in our rendition of these cakes, we're using modern ingredients.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
This is an interpretation of a period recipe. It's not like having a time machine and being able to literally pull that recipe out.
Okay. So now, John.
Yes.
We have to be honest.
Yes? Okay, here it is. Here's the honesty. There's honesty. There's honesty right there.
That was the cake that we mixed up that we prepared
This way.
for the video.
Right there.
That one right
That
there.
one right there. Well, there's another one too.
Yeah, there's the brown sugar
There's
cake
the other one.
right there. Yes.
So ashamed.
And that in and of itself was a learning experience. How late were we up last night?
Quarter to
baking this?
midnight, we stopped work.
We stopped work.
Right,
And then I
quarter
got
to
up this morning to ice them. Yes. Oh, while you guys were busy too.
It was a cold day in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And these are not easy to make.
No.
These egg leavened pieces, you gotta whisk this for an hour. We did that, really. We whisked for an hour.
Right.
Look at
right
my
o-
arms.
Right over there is a KitchenAid stand mixer.
He's not telling the truth. I whisked them. In fact, I whisked it all. And that was really hard. But even harder than getting all that whisked together, even if you did have modern implements, was folding this all together without killing it.
It was.
It's impossible.
Right.
The butter was so cold. We
Right.
couldn't get the butter to that
Right,
whipped mentality.
we creamed the butter and the sugar together, and it was like a rock.
Right.
Because
Now-
it was 40 degrees in here.
Now I'm going to give ourselves a little bit of a break in that we were shooting a video too.
Right.
Yes.
Which
It's not easy.
that just complicated it.
Right.
But it was just way too cold in the kitchen to do this.
When we were folding these guys together, well, obviously we killed every air bubble known to man trying to get this together, and so it ends
see a
up
couple.
like
We
we
have
call
a
it
construction project coming up, right? Well, there's
Cake
your
brick.
first brick. Yes.
Also, in our defense, the whole time we actually were cooking these in our catering kitchen, our volunteers kept saying, "No, I'm sure it's fine because it smells so good." We kept saying, "Oh, I think we've."
And honestly, it does
didn't work
taste-
out.
Yeah, but the
and they were like,
truth
"No, it
is-
must be great."
The truth is, it still tastes
Yeah.
wonderful. It's just not this light and fluffy thing anywhere close to what we call a cake.
Right.
So we had to do it again.
Right. And I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
It was
Absolutely.
a learning experience for all four of us,
Yes.
really. And we talk about, we hear of people, in the comment section of these videos saying, well, I can't do this, and they have reasons for doing it. And I know, John, you have encouraged them. It's like, try the recipe. By trying the recipe, you are involving yourself in living history. And here we're sitting with two very experienced living historians, interpreters, and we all learn from this process.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think we were talking last night about we wanted to share this so people would realize that we fail, but if you keep trying, you'll get there. And it's really worth it to keep trying and learn from your failures.
Very rarely are any of the episodes we do successful in the very first try, unless it's something we already cooked. You know, it's a modern thing that's just a slight interpretation.
Well, it drove home to me too. It's like we research these whole periods and we try to put characteristics and prevailing trends and everything on these periods, whole periods in time. But how much time did we spend recreating this one moment? You know?
Right.
So
Single.
right, and we still don't know.
Right.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to come here to Locust Grove. It has been amazing. And I'm not sure we have shot so many videos in the span of 2 days. It's been grueling from that standpoint. And we're not done.
Right.
We have a few more things to do. But it has been just a delight to get to meet you, to get to know you, to get to work with you. And I assume that this is just the beginning of our relationship.
Absolutely. We want to thank you guys too, because I mean, we learned things about our own site by working with you guys that we wouldn't have, we wouldn't have picked up on before. So this has been,
It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Absolutely.
This has been great.
Well, and again, John has said it in all the videos. If you're in this area, you must come here. It's an amazing site.
Yeah, they have wonderful programs throughout the year, special things happening. When they don't have a special things happening, it's still cool. Lots of outbuildings. You're developing programs even now.
Yeah.
You've got the brand new distillery
Right.
coming online. You've got other things happening.
Well, it's like we're very aware at this point that people want interactivity. They want to see how life worked back in those days. And so that's a focus that we're really trying to build in a way that we never had before.
Yeah, it's exciting to see a dynamic site that's continuing to grow, continuing to evolve, working with whether it's new media or other things where we want to connect, we want to really tell this story and so that people in the modern day context can understand, why do we care about this situation? Exactly. There is so much to learn. It is amazing. I want to thank you guys for obviously taking this has been a grueling process. I know you're tired, I'm tired, but it's been a lot of fun.
It's been rewarding, yeah.
Like every one of these sites we come to, we go home, we spend hours and days talking about how, energized we are when we engage with these sites. This is exciting. You need to connect with these historic sites whenever possible, support them in any way possible. I want to thank you for sharing this little experience, this sort of behind the scenes of how this episode got and, what were the mistakes and how this all put together. So much fun. Thank you for joining us today as we savor the flavors and the aromas and the cakes of the 18th and 19th century.